Welcome to Clear Vision Wednesday. Our topic today is a topic that I think a lot of people can relate to, especially if you've already improved your vision, but maybe you also had LASIK and your vision got worse. Initially it was great, but for most people that can relate to this is they've probably improved their vision naturally, got out of glasses, maybe got into weaker glasses, were able to do lots of things without glasses, and all of a sudden it just seems like your vision is as bad as it was before. At least it's definitely gotten worse. So why do some people backslide on their vision gains, and why do some people not backslide? So question to you here in the who are live or watching this, have you ever felt like your vision was improving and then suddenly it wasn't? I've seen this so many times. So people start seeing progress and then they slip back without knowing why. And it definitely happened to me several times in my life. I've been involved in vision improvement basically since I was a teenager, like pretty much 50 years. Not quite, but almost 50 years. And I remember one story in particular. So we had moved to Los Angeles to America from Germany, and then we decided to move back. And it was very challenging moving back. It was like I had two teenage daughters that told me every day how much I ruined their lives by moving back to Germany. Single mom, I was super stressed. Also, that was around the time the financial crisis happened. It was like a toxic cocktail of scary things happening. And I had already kind of had a very minimal self-care routine at the time for my vision, just because I worked full time and I had two kids and all these kind of things. But I noticed that basically I just abandoned everything. I abandoned everything. I was in that scarcity mindset, the fear for not making money, preteens, teens, all the kind of stuff they do. I don't want to tell you about that, but you get it. So my vision really got worse. And at that point, I also was very frustrated with my career in advertising. And I decided at that point to become a naturally clear vision teacher. It was methodology training in the Bates method. So I decided it was scary to make the investment. Anyway, I did. And in that teacher training, I got my vision to the point like it was better than ever before. But I needed that accountability. So other reasons that we hear that their vision backslides is like my spouse got sick. I have to move my parents into a nursing home. I'm having other health issues. I'm going through divorce. There's a death in the family. You can probably relate to things that happen in your life, and it all boils down really to stress. So our lives are already stressful for many of us, but then now there's another huge stressor. Losing the job is another one. Whatever it is, but there's a huge other stressor that basically any kind of self-care routine that we had, eating cleaner, exercising, going outside, all the things that we've already been doing more or less, all of a sudden kind of fall through the cracks. But I want to talk about the core idea here, which is like vision improvement is not about eye exercises. I keep saying that over and over and over again. It's not about spending an hour in the eye gym and rolling your eyes this way and that way. It's about deep integration through three key shifts. One is mindfulness, really being mindful. And I know that word is overused, but being aware of what you're doing, understanding not just, oh, I'm bad, I'm guilty, I'm too busy, whatever we tell ourselves, being mindful. And when you do vision practices, which the things I teach, you can do that on your walk, you can do that on your drive, you can do that while you're sitting in the train. None of these things, pretty much none of them, maybe a couple, but most of the things I'm teaching don't take any extra time that you have to take out of your already crazy stressful day. Okay, so being mindful about the practices, not doing them mechanical like an eye exercise, that's number one. The second is that those practices will help you change your habits. And one habit that I always use an example, everybody gets it, blinking more. Blinking more is super powerful when it comes to your vision. And blinking is initially I had to put stickers everywhere. I had to practice this, reminders, practice blinking. And now it's a habit that I just can't even undo anymore. It's become automatic. Or going outside in the morning, getting natural light. It doesn't matter. Like those things have now become so ingrained. So making things habits, make it really easy that you don't even think about it. And then the last thing, I'm going to talk a little bit about the science and the kind of populism opinion and what I really feel is science. But there is solid evidence that when you learn something and you teach it to others, that you retain it better and that you are more accountable to actually keep doing it. So we will talk about all three of these things. So the first thing is about the mindfulness, right? So most people see vision improvement as, oh, there's another thing on my to-do list, right? Oh my God, now I have to do these eye exercises and I don't have time for this. Or now on the computer all day, how do I even have success? So, like I said, I want to repeat this. It's not like fitness. Doing like a long swing practice, for instance, where I recommend doing about 100 swings back and forth, slowly, mindfully, is not like a fitness exercise where you just wish, wash, wish, wash. You do it like, oh, I did 100 times. That will not get you any success because now you're not mindful. You're not even noticing what your eyes are doing. You're not noticing if you're relaxing. You are not noticing when you do, let's say you're resting your eyes afterwards with calming. You're not being aware. Are your eyes feeling more relaxed? You're not paying any attention. You just do it mechanically. We see in the brain, and it's vision is a sense. If we don't engage the brain in mindfulness, an exercise is not going to help you at whatever. So the solution, instead of doing vision practices mechanically, experience them with awareness. Like, for instance, try this right now. Close your eyes and recall a simple shape or an object. How clearly do you see it in your mind from memory? We do a lot of work in my natural vision method about memorizing and imagination. And so maybe you can imagine a triangle, a pink triangle, or maybe you can imagine a green square. So we use a lot of like visualization, memory, imagination-based techniques in everything that we do, every technique that we do, every practice. You can do that on the train. You can do that when you're driving a car. But we will close our eyes and then repeat it with eyes closed from memory, using imagination if necessary to improve the desired effect, whatever the goal is for this particular practice. And a lot of times things are easier with eyes closed because we take out the eye strain that is so embedded when we have our eyes open. So does that make sense? So that's number one, like really basically making mindfulness part of the vision practices and really paying attention to these things. Like, what do I notice? Maybe when I do a swing, I go to the right, it feels hard. And when I go to the left, it's easy. Or all these things tell us a little story about something. Why is our peripheral vision bigger on the right than the left? All these things are important. And if you're not paying attention to this, I also recommend journaling or writing it down or jotting it down so that you keep track of these things because it's easy to forget. We humans are people that focus on problems, not on improvements, right? Am I right? We kind of take improvements for granted and problems are like just, oh, we failed. Okay, that's number one. Number two is what I talked about, the habits, right? So basically, you want to use your eyes. Bates said that like 100 years ago. People complained 100 years ago they don't have time. And he always said, well, you can use your eyes well all day long, or you can use them poorly, and then you feel eye strain and you get glasses, right? So the problem that I see is that people only focus on that vision when something is off. Like when it feels weird, when it feels strained, when they're tired, when they're itchy, when they're red, whatever it is. And so instead of weaving healthy habits into your life, so ideally, I know this is like the concept of prevention, right? Not sexy. We don't do it. We like, my daughter just told me yesterday, my car has problems. I'm like, did you do your oil changes regularly? No. So the maintenance, right? It's like it's not the urgent siren, the alarm going off, but when you ignore it, the problem gets very big and expensive. So examples of naturally easy to implement habits that I like to teach people is we already talked a little bit about it, blinking more, right? Taking visual break from screens, putting your computer in front of a window like I have, so I can just look out, I can look at the sky, look in the distance without making a complicated thing, getting up, turning around. We have to make it easy for ourselves. Getting natural morning light. Sometimes I literally walk up and down my driveway, or I go to the mailbox, or whatever I do, just to get outside and or maybe I walk around the block with my coffee instead of sitting on the sofa. So, little mini challenge here. How many times have you blinked in the last 30 seconds? Start noticing because one of the main reasons we have dry eyes, guess what? Not blinking. So people sit at the computer being super hyper focused, and then they're like, my eyes are so dry. And then you take these eye drops, synthetic eye drops with preservatives and that make it worse and worse. And guess what? Your eyes will be drier and drier and drier. So just as an example, little daily habits that we can implement is like I'm standing on, I have a standing desk and I'm standing on a little movement. It's called MoveMate. I'm just testing this thing. It's super cool. It's a little different than the fluid stance boards that are solid, but it has like little slats. And so you can kind of shift your hips. You can literally, it's very cool. So I'm getting some movement. And guess what? Just standing there and moving, I'm not going to move too much to not distract you, but it actually makes movement is one of the key factors of good vision. So creating more movement in your life, whichever way it is, standing on a movement mate board or something like that, whatever you can do to create movement in your life is another one of those habits, right? People with good vision, they don't sit still or stare at the screen. There's always some kind of movement involved. I mean, as a speaker, it can be distracting if you like doing all this, right? We're not, not going to do that. All right. The third one is really the one that I find is incredibly that I had even no idea about until like, I mean, I noticed that in my own journey, but I wasn't really putting two and two together. So the best way, it's called either learning retention or the protege effect. But basically, the concept that you retain information better and you understand things better when you don't just study it. And even if, I mean, there's a level of studying it, writing down, there's all these levels of retaining things better and understanding them better and embodying them better. But there's also the concept of like holding yourself accountable and becoming better and understanding deeper levels of this, which then apply to yourself. And Edgar Dale, I had actually had to look up who that is, but he's known as the founder of the learning pyramid. And I honestly, I couldn't find any science on the learning pyramid, but the concept, I have some science things, links that I will link. But basically, he said this idea of we remember 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear, 30% of what we see. And I want to pause right there because I believe, and again, there's also debate about that, but I do believe there's different learning styles. I'm a visual learner. I 100%, 1,000 times easier remember what I see than what I hear. But I also know like Mozart or people that have an auditory learning style, they can remember things they heard. Versus for me, definitely the 10%, right? Or actually, I would say I probably remember more what I read than what I hear, you know? So I don't know, Edgar Dale, if your thing is right, but the concept is like the more senses we engage, the better it is. So he said 50% of what we see and hear, right? So when we combine more senses and then maybe write it down, by the way, handwriting, guys, will help you over typing. It will engage the brain and the eyes on a way deeper level than just typing things on the computer. I know it's easy, it's great on the computer. You can search your notes later versus, trust me, I have a bookshelf full of notebooks from different conferences and trying to find that one thing where like, I know I wrote that down. But handwriting is a great way to improve your vision also. So then he said 70% when we discuss it with other people, 80% of what we personally experience, and 95% of what we teach others. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't think these percentages are exactly true, but there is truth because there's many studies, and I linked them in the show notes, many studies where people looked at student retention, learning. Dr. Huberman talked about in this podcast on studying and learning and studies they did with Stanford medical students. And one thing out of the 10 things they did, like scheduling things, planning it out, putting in the calendar, times to study, repeating the learning even without having a test. But one thing that stood out in all these things is like teaching teaching it to other people is really the big needle mover. And there's one experiment, and again, the links are all in there. I forgot now who did this one, but they had basically two groups of participants. One group was told that they would teach the material, so they had to learn something, and then they had to teach it to another student before being tested. The other group was just told they're just going to be tested on the material they read. And the people who were told they were going to teach it, before being tested, they never actually taught any of this stuff, had better recall of the material, and they correctly answered way more questions about the material. So just being told that you have to teach it is apparently really, really useful. So I definitely know that's true about me. When I teach something, first of all, I prepare better, I focus more. And when I'm teaching it, I'm like, oh, this is like, then you get feedback from that person and you're like, interesting. Let me try that out. So then all of a sudden your own practice becomes way deeper and you try more things, you explore more things, and you understand this better because not everybody will be like you. Other people will have totally different experiences. And then you're like, oh, interesting. That makes sense, or that doesn't make sense. Tell me more. So it's teaching is really a huge thing. So ask yourself, when you do vision improvement, and you can apply this to anything you do in life, but let's talk about vision improvement. Which piece, when you started learning to improve your vision, which piece is so interesting and also so valuable that it would be worth teaching it to others? So you don't have to. That's one thing I did wrong at the beginning. I would teach people everything, and they're like, okay, okay, too much. So maybe there's one thing that was a big aha for you that you feel is valuable to teach, right? And when you decided which one it is, let's say it's palming. I don't know, I'm just making up something. How would you go explaining this concept to someone else, right? So maybe as a little challenge here today, try explaining a vision technique to a friend, even in the simplest way. And remember, Einstein always said, if you can't say it simply, you don't get it, you know? So how can you explain this in the simplest way and notice where you struggle to articulate things, and that's where your own learning deepens. And I can definitely explain that, like when I try to say something to my children, something I learned, and I don't. Sometimes they're very like, "Mom, where's that? Where did you get that?" Like, and sometimes if I don't get it all right, so I have to really write it down because sometimes I get the gist of the thing, but I don't remember all the stuff before. So, but when I really want to teach this, I prepare and I understand it on a deeper level. So the really the big thing is the closing thought here is really which one of the three shifts do you need to focus on, right? In order to prevent a backslide. Maybe it is, being more mindful about practices, but maybe right now you're not doing any of the practices. So maybe pick one and make it a habit and then make that one thing very mindful. Do it very mindfully, exploring, blinking, quick blinking, slow blinking, closing your eyes. Like try the different things, do a reverse blinking where you have your eyes closed and then you open them quickly and close them. Play around with this one thing, and already you will see improvements, right? That's one thing. And then so ask yourself, am I truly mindful in my practices? Am I making them habits? Like habits, can I somehow we all love the book Atomic Habits. And he talked about it like attaching it to something you're already doing. So I like coffee in the morning. I drink my coffee. Today it's raining, but when I drink my coffee, at least half, like maybe 3 days of the week, I will go for a walk around the block while I'm drinking my coffee instead of sitting at my computer, right? And other days I sit at my computer, but I do something else. I go bring the trash can out or in, whatever, so I get some morning sunshine or daylight into my eyes, right? So where can you attach things to things that you're already doing? And then am I deepening my learning by actively sharing and teaching it? And it doesn't mean if you're like a professional teacher, if you want to be a professional teacher, if you're just passionate about this, and you teach it. But also remember getting like teaching it to people that are actually interested. Because that's the other thing that we do. If you just otherwise people are like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. I've all done this. So this is basically the final thing. I want to look at questions in a moment, but I do want to share with you that I have my very first ever founders group of my Natural Clear Vision Coach certification starting in, wait, what is it, like 7 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And I'm super excited about this because what I found that everybody that already enrolled, and we are close, we only have a few spots left, everybody that already enrolled has an attitude of always learning, being curious, being mindful. They all want to improve their own vision with teacher level knowledge, practices, and skills because that's honestly the reason why I became a vision teacher. I was like, I want to understand this more. That's why I became a yoga teacher. That's why I studied myofascial release because I was so tense. And to me, working on your own stuff is a great reason to become certified in something because you will be so much more invested in this versus just thinking, oh, I just want to learn this to make money, right? And lastly, teaching others in a way that gets results and provides an income. So when you're just sharing with friends or teaching other people, like I said, sometimes they don't really care. I have friends and I know you said I shouldn't wear sunglasses, but I'm like, you know. I'm like, it's okay. It's your vision. I don't, it's fine, you know. But when you actually get trained and certified, because then you attract the people that want your teaching, that want to learn from you. And that way it's making, so you basically create an income or an abundance by living your purpose. This was my big needle mover versus the work in advertising I did was great in my 20s and 30s. I loved it. Loved working 100 hours a week and not leaving work before 10 p.m. and starting at 9 a.m. I loved it. But there was a point where I'm like, I don't like this anymore. So teaching others and vision improvement is a way to provide you with an income based on living your purpose. And it's not just to make money and be drained at the end of the day, right? So like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. I used to be so exhausted. And you're like, happy hour, bring on the cocktails. So when I had to realize at that point that was not good for me, healthy and mentally and physical health. And teaching this work is just so profound. So let me know. I will put a link in the chat if you are interested. If this sounds like something you want to do, I will have more. We also have a replay of a current class we did last week that we can send you. So I maybe if you can provide me with a link, Katrina or Trisha, that would be great. I don't have the link actually ready for the replay to share with everybody, but I will put it in the chat and let you know so you can watch that. Okay, are there any questions on YouTube? Let me look. All right, I see some questions. 1 second, let me find them here. Lana is asking, it happened to me recently. I guess you're referring to the like vision declining, right? I've been spending so much time studying another language, Korean, okay, being too focused. Blinking, okay. How can I see or share a copy to see later? I'm not sure what you mean, Heidi. This video will stay on YouTube. I don't know. And all the studies I refer to, we have them linked under the when you have to click the more button underneath the video. All right. And then please reach out to me. I try to look at all the comments on YouTube. I do my best to review them. So let me know if you have any questions. Or the only one, maybe Trisha, if you have a link to the replay, that would be great. I can put it on YouTube. And if not, I will thank you. That's the application. Trisha, I have that too. Thank you. The replay of the training, I would love to put that on there. But I can also put the application into YouTube. Let me see if I can put that in there. But again, you might want to watch the replay to actually know what this is all about. All right. Have a great day, YouTube. I see you next week. And next week, we're going to have a great episode about connecting, using castor oil to improve your chakras from the third eye to the what is it called now? The root chakra, so that you feel grounded and inspired and to actually help, because grounding is as important as improving your third eye abilities to see clearly. So I'm very excited about that session next Wednesday.